You pull into the same parking lot twice in 1 week. Monday, you're in a leased BMW you can barely afford. The valet smiles wider. The host at the restaurant finds you a better table. A stranger in the elevator asks what you do for a living. Like the answer must be interesting. Friday, you're in your actual car, a 12-year-old Honda, with 140,000 miles. And none of that happens. Same person. Same face. Same bank account, actually, since nothing in your finances changed between Monday and Friday. Only the metal around you changed. That's the part that should bother you. The car did the talking, and it lied. Here's the deeper problem. Most people assume the way they're treated is a reaction to who they are, their success, their character, their bank balance. But a 2010 study by psychologists Michael Dunn and Robert Searle at the University of Wales found something uncomfortable. When they showed people photos of the exact same man, standing next to either a Bentley or a plain Ford Fiesta, women rated him as significantly more attractive next to the Bentley. Same face, same body, same smile. The only variable was the car parked behind him. His actual bank account never entered the room. Only the car did, and the car got interviewed on his behalf. So let's walk through what that means at every level of net worth. Because the gap between what you're worth and what you're driving is where all of this lives. At zero, or close to it, a strange thing happens. This is often where the flashiest cars show up. Not because the money is there, but because the car becomes armor. A lease on a German luxury sedan can run $500 to $700 a month, roughly what a used, reliable Toyota would cost to finance outright. But it buys something a spreadsheet can't measure. It buys the benefit of the doubt. Sales associates approach faster. Landlords ask fewer questions. A first date assumes stability that isn't there yet. The car is rented confident, financed at 6 or 7% interest, and it's working exactly as designed. Except it's quietly draining the one thing that could actually build the net worth. This whole performance is supposed to represent. So let's walk through what actually happens when you sit down to buy that car. You walk onto the lot, already knowing you're stretching. The salesperson doesn't know your bank balance, your student loans, or the fact that rent takes half your paycheck. What they see is someone who wants that car badly enough to talk price instead of walking away. Every incentive in that conversation, the extended warranty, the slightly higher trim, the just $60 more a month, is aimed at a person who has already decided the image matters more than the number behind it. Experian State of the Automotive Finance Market Report, which tracks tens of millions of real auto loans every quarter, has shown average new car loan terms stretching past 68 months, with a growing share of buyers rolling negative equity from their last car into the next one. That's not a coincidence. That's the cost of financing a first impression, refinanced over and over for years. At $50,000 in net worth, someone may be 5 years into a real career, some savings, some debt still hanging on. The car usually gets more practical. A newer but modest sedan, paid down, nothing flashy. And the treatment shifts too, but not always in the direction you'd expect. Walk into a car dealership at this stage, and salespeople often calibrate to the vehicle you arrive in, not the pre-approval letter in your pocket. Pull up in something modest, and some dealers will steer you toward the cheaper trim before you've said a word. It's a small, almost invisible sorting mechanism, and it happens before any real conversation about what you can actually afford has started. At $150,000 in net worth, something interesting happens to how people talk to you, especially in financial settings. Loan officers, insurance agents, even contractors quoting a home repair. Research on lending behavior has repeatedly shown that visual cues of stability change how thoroughly people get vetted and how quickly they get approved. A car that reads as established, not flashy, just clean, newer, well-kept, tends to shorten that process, not because anyone checked your 401a balance in the parking lot. Because the car did a version of that check for them, instantly, without anyone asking a single question out loud. And at $500,000 in net worth, the pattern often flips entirely. And this is where it gets genuinely counterintuitive. Thomas Stanley and William Donko spent years surveying actual American millionaires for their book, The Millionaire Next Door. And one of their most repeated findings was this: most millionaires do not drive new luxury cars. Many drive used vehicles, some over a decade old. Stanley's data showed that a large share of self-made millionaires bought their most recent vehicle used, and a meaningful number never owned a brand new car in their life. The wealth was real. The car gave zero indication of it. These are people who crossed the exact net worth threshold this video is asking about. And their driveway looks almost identical to the zero tier we started with. Except this time, the plain car isn't hiding anything. It's not covering for an empty account. It's just no longer necessary as a signal, because the actual number is doing fine without an audience. This is the twist nobody tells you when they talk about success looking a certain way. The car you drive and the net worth you have are almost two separate currencies, moving in opposite directions depending on where you are. At the bottom, the car often overstates the truth to borrow trust the balance sheet hasn't earned yet. At the top, the car frequently understates the truth because trust has already been earned somewhere else. In a portfolio statement, nobody in that parking lot will ever see. The economist Thorstein Veblen named this behavior over a century ago. In 1899, in The Theory of the Leisure Class, he coined the term conspicuous consumption, spending money publicly and visibly specifically to signal status to people who can't otherwise see your actual finances. Veblen wasn't writing about cars. He didn't need to. The mechanism is identical no matter what the object is. Buy the thing everyone can see, so people stop asking about the thing they can't, and the data on how far people stretch to keep that mechanism running is genuinely alarming. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Household Debt and Credit Report has tracked U.S. auto loan balances climbing past $1.6 trillion, with delinquency rates on those loans rising fastest among borrowers who can least absorb the monthly payment. People are financing the signal, not the asset. They're paying real interest every month for years to rent a first impression, while the number that actually determines their financial future sits untouched, or worse, gets smaller to make room for the payment. So picture the parking lot one more time. 3 cars, side by side. A financed luxury SUV belonging to someone with $4, zero in savings, and a car payment eating 18% of their take-home pay. A clean, modest sedan belonging to someone with $150,000 quietly invested, still driving what they bought used 4 years ago. And a 10-year-old truck with a dent in the tailgate, belonging to someone worth $500,000, who simply stopped needing the parking lot to vouch for them a long time ago. Nobody walking past those 3 cars could rank them correctly. The valet, the loan officer, the stranger in the elevator, they'd get it backwards almost every time, because they're reading the one variable that was never designed to tell the truth. Here's where it lands on you, specifically. Somewhere in your driveway right now is a decision you made about which currency to spend. The visible one or the invisible one. Maybe you already know which car you're driving and which story it's telling people before you say a word. The uncomfortable question isn't whether the car is nice. It's whether you bought it to be seen or because it was genuinely the smartest use of the money you have. Those 2 reasons can produce the exact same car in the driveway and two completely different financial futures 10 years from now. One where the payment quietly outlives the impression it was meant to create, and one where the money that would have gone into that payment is somewhere else entirely. Compounding. Invisible. Doing the one thing a leased grill badge never could. You pulled into that parking lot twice this week. Once in the car that talks, and once in the one that doesn't. The question was never which car got you treated better. It's which number you'd rather be building while nobody's looking.